Hey guys, it's Eric Green. Listen, how do I make sure that all these potential clients sign my letter and pay me before we start doing work? I use Anchor. Anchor created a fully autonomous billing system and closes the cycle with zero errors. It sends our agreement to the potential client. We'll follow up with them automatically to make sure that agreement is signed. It alerts us when it gets read, when it's signed, and when payment is made. And this way, you know where you are every step of the way. I was so impressed with Anchor, which, by the way, is free. We went to Anchor and have partnered with them. Now, if you go and you register with Anchor, which is free, by the way, if I didn't mention that, you will get access to all of our checklists and letters, okay? But you have to go through our link, all right? Again, by the way, Anchor's free. There is a $5 fee per transaction if you're wondering how they make money. But given that our minimum retainer is $750, it's less than 1%. It's nothing, okay? So again, it's free. They charge the $5, transaction fee on payments, and it will automate your onboarding clients, make follow-up, just puts it on autopilot. It just saves you all that stress and you will close more deals. All right. So sign up here. It's www.sayanchor.com/tax rep. Again, sayanchor.com, sayanchor.com/tax rep, TAXREP. When you go through there, you'll sign up for free and you will have access to all of our letters and checklists, which will save you the trouble of recreating them yourself. All right. Go check out Anchor and put that closing process on autopilot. Guys, I've told my horror story before with S Corp clients and how do you know what reasonable comp is? My horror story is when they went after that CPA who was a friend of mine for $125,000, arguing that he knew and that he knew better and that he should have made sure his clients took reasonable comp. I'm a huge fan of RC reports. RC reports, it's about $1,400 a year. We're charging the S Corps that come to us under audit $750 a piece. We'll probably make between $10,000 and $20,000 with RC reports. But if you have S Corp or C Corp clients, they have to each year get a report, and the report is as simple as possible. RC Reports has a huge database of businesses. It will give you a report that you can rely on. And so far, to date, when we produce that report, not a single auditor has challenged it. The critical thing right now is for your clients to get that report to support the number they're taking on the return, that you're taking on that return that you're signing. Best way to do it, RC Reports. Go check it out, okay? You can find them. It's trn.rcreports.com. Again, trn.rcreports.com. Go there, you'll save $100. It will change your practice, create an annuity stream for you, and bulletproof your clients' corporate returns. The Tax Rep podcast is now proudly partnered with Nice Job, the experts in reputation marketing. Reviews are so important for attracting new clients. Before Nice Job, I would ask people to leave reviews, but they would usually forget, and I didn't have a way to stay on top and remember to follow up with them. That's where Nice Job comes in. Their smart follow-up campaign recognizes who hasn't left a review yet and automatically sends carefully timed reminders that can increase your chances of getting a review by 300%. I tried Nice Job for Tax Rep, and it's been a game changer. We added 33 five-star reviews in our first month, and our Google business profile is like a magnet for new customers. You can try Nice Job for free for 14 days and get 50% off your first 3 months by visiting nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. I'm going to put a link in the description of the podcast. Try it. It will be a game changer for your business as well. How do I manage my tax rep practice? How do I get transcripts? How do I track what is going on with the IRS with every single one of my client cases? How do we complete the offer forms, the powers of attorney, everything? We use Tax Help software. Tax Help software is the cornerstone of our practice. We use it for its intelligent ordering. Every single night, it will update the transcripts on our clients, so we will see things happen long before those letters even go to the mail. We can then, react. We can let the client know. We can get all the transcripts we need to determine what our client's best options are, when is the debt going to expire, and we can fill in all of the IRS forms and get them filed accurately, the analysis done correctly. If you're interested in giving it a test, go to taxhelpsoftware.com, use promo code TaxRepTrial, all one word, all caps. You will get a free 2-week trial. Again, that's taxhelpsoftware.com, TaxRepTrial, all caps, for a free 2-week trial. If you love it and want to buy it, use TaxRep10, capital, all caps, TAXREP10, TaxRep10, all caps, one word. You'll save 10% on your purchase. It will be the engine that runs your tax rep practice, just like it's what we use for ours.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. Very special guest. He's back, actually. Joe's been here before. Joining me is Joe Woodard. If you haven't been to Scaling New Heights, Joe does a lot of other teaching and education, but Scaling New Heights is one of the largest tax conferences in the country. As well as they cover accounting and bookkeeping. And for me, it was the technology. And I can tell you my history, but Joe, listen, thank you for taking the time, because I know you're busy planning what's going to be a terrific conference this year. I know, because I'm speaking. But thank you for doing this.
It's great to be here, Eric. Always great to be here.
And so, just as background, and I've said this before. For me, I would get invited to conferences. I show up, go down, speak, go back to my room, and bill, because I'm a lawyer. That's what lawyers do. And it was in Florida. It was at Disney. It was the first time I was speaking, and it was Don Brolin. Don said, "You have to come to the exhibit hall." I'm like, I really have no interest. And she's like, no, you got to come. Blown away. Just blown away by the technology and the automation, which, by the way, gets you thinking. To me, one of the brilliant things about the conference is you leave with like all these ideas. Like there's so much cool stuff that I can do, and how do I improve my practice? And so instead of me because I'm very excited about it, blabbing, Joe, and I do want to talk about the title of this year, Soar, which is a great title. But why don't you, from your perspective, what is the conference about?
Yeah, so the conference is really about 4 things, Eric. It's about building powerful relationships. It's about exploring technology. It's about learning, and it's about being inspired. And so we're going to break that down into those pillars into the activities of the conference. Being inspired happens on the main stage. Learning, of course, in the breakouts, though, of course, that's not an absolute. There's bleed over there. Exploration takes place on the exhibit hall, and networking takes place everywhere. I just finished a book by Michael Hyatt called Free to Focus, and he said something in the book that was incredible to me, and I know it to be true, but I've never heard it framed so succinctly and insightfully. He said, "You will be the same person 10 years from now that you are today, except for the people you meet and the things you learn." Now, he said people you meet and books you read, but I'm going to expand it and say people you meet and things you learn. And there's so much truth to that, right? So if you're looking for, the 2 primary pillars of the conference, it's going to be the education and the people that you meet. I met you at Scaling New Heights. Right. We have this entire relationship that's been powerful since 2017 when you came in Orlando because of Scaling New Heights, right? So that's happening when you're not the show host as well.
Yeah, no, and it's the quote is great. The way I had heard it, and many people have probably heard it, is when it comes to like identity, they talk about you are the 5 people you hang around, right? Because they influence you, right? Dawn, you, Heather, who works for you. There are people that have influenced me in opening up my eyes to other possibilities, the technology, what you can do with your practice that had never crossed my mind. And for those listening who've not been, this is a conference you want to go to. It's 4 days. There's tremendous learning. The exhibit hall is unbelievable.
When you saw it, Eric, it had 80 exhibits. And this year we're going to have 135. So yeah. And I know that may seem overwhelming. How can I possibly explore all that? But I just want to let you guys know technology exploration, even if you can't get to everything, have a path, have a plan. We list out all the exhibitors, buy their booth numbers, plan before you get in there. So it's not just, being overwhelmed.
Right.
But the point is, that's how much not only the conference has grown, Eric, but how much the opportunity has grown since you saw it around tech.
Well, and there's a lot more pressure on it, on firms. Go find people, right? Go find bodies. Most of the accountants I talk to, they don't have enough bodies to do the work, which means, and you and I have spoken about this actually the last time you were on the podcast, we were talking about at the time, automated bookkeeping was starting to come out. And I started hearing, oh my God, they're going to take my job. And you and I had discussed the idea, well, wait a minute, you can look at it one way, right? They're competing with me, they're going to take my job. Or do you look at it like, hey, wait a minute, if I can get the bookkeeping done, well, basically done through automated means, this is an opportunity as the business owner, go get more work. I can leverage this and punch way above my weight. And so even in law now, with AI doing these big document reviews, the old pyramid structure is now become much leaner because you don't need an army of staff attorneys for 3 months digging through 2,500 boxes of documents. AI will go through it in probably 5 hours and spit out everything that it thinks.
Parse it, summarize it, everything.
Right. And so the beauty of the technology is, one, make you more efficient. Two, you can actually expand into other areas because now you have a means to do that work. For instance, and I'm an attorney, I'm not getting into bookkeeping, but there are a lot of accounting firms don't want to do bookkeeping, right? Because of the manual aspect of it. Well, wait a minute. If I can get it done in an automated way,
and not so much your category because you're a tax attorney, but the tax preparers
right
really need to be getting involved in bookkeeping, because if they have corporate tax clients and they don't have clean books, they're inheriting a mess, and then they end up having to basically be a bookkeeper anyway and do an annual compilation, and then probably sign a tax return that they're wincing. They probably sign it like this. If you're looking at the video, I had to cover my eyes while they sign because they can't really trust the numbers. I mean, all that headache goes away and your tax practice is more efficient and profitable while you're making non-seasonal revenues on the bookkeeping side. But to your point, tax preparers have shied away from it because of the staffing issues and the legwork issues, and all those are now being done by the bots. And that's a great reason for tax preparers listening in to come to the show and explore the way that you can automate, maybe with some outsourcing, because we have outsourced providers on the exhibit floor, and get 95% or more to the goal. You might be able to handle a book of business, Eric, of about 100 corporate bookkeeping clients, right? Which are just cross sell from your tax practice with one account manager, a bunch of tech, and a team in India. Right. If that's something that your audience would want to come explore.
Well, listen, we're dealing on the rep side. There was a TIGDA report out May of 2020 about the IRS has already identified more than 10 million non-filers. Many of them are high income earning. So my folks, I have one of their big marketing pushes is, what do you do if you haven't filed? Come on in. We can help you with this. We can get you straightened out. And of course, the big thing that always comes up is, well, great. Who's going to do 6 years worth of work, whatever? Log in, you can pull stuff down, have the automation, pull it together. Mostly, like you said, at some point, a human being's got to go through it. But if you could do it in a fraction of the time, and by the way, you're charging, which is so funny, Joe. I remember to say, well, it's only going to cost, this. And I'm like, no. I'm charging because we got the bookkeeping done. All right. I'm charging value. All right. I'm not charging what it costs
Thank
me.
you.
I'm not a
Thank
charity.
you. I wish more lawyers would get that, because the accountants are finally waking up to that. But the attorneys have got to get away from that billable hour.
No, the billable hour thing is gotta end.
Yeah.
But it also just doesn't make economic sense. My members are paying to be members of Tax Rep to build a practice to make money. I don't have anyone who's ever said, you know what, I want to sign up and just do charitable work. Right? No,
Right.
you're
Exactly.
here to make money.
Exactly.
So it's worth X. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you have someone with horrible circumstances, we do offers for free.
I tell people, have a pro bono budget and spend it down like any other budget line item. So it's not, so you can control it and it's prudent, but you're not Ebenezer Scrooge, right? You're not a cold heart. So yeah, absolutely.
No. And then it's so anyway, the automation, I mean, the amount of players in the market is just phenomenal. Now, you named this year's conference Soar. And I love on the site, you have this great description about, are you just flapping in the wind or are you soaring? What prompted you to go?
Well, I see how bookkeepers work. And despite having all this automation at their fingertips, exploring it, knowing it, loving it, psychologically embracing it is one thing. Implementing it is another. And then I've got another step. Implementing it systemically or systematically is a completely different step. And I'm not seeing most bookkeepers, and there's not as much automation in the tax space, but it's catching up there. I see even fewer tax preparers truly leveraging the power of automation. And as a result, with the lack of standardization inside of a process solution that democratizes the knowledge with the proper notes and the proper learning curve and the proper technology that's automating up to 80% of the manual entry. Well, actually, I say up to now. I think 80% is the standard, and you can actually push above that a little bit now. If you're not maximizing these things, then you're flapping unnecessarily. So whenever I revealed the theme, I think you were there for this. I had a hummingbird up on the screen, and I talked about how many times a second the hummingbird's wings flap, and pigeons, and I make kind of fun of the geese, because I always imagine, ever since I was a little kid, when I hear them honking over my head, I always imagine it's taking so much effort. It's kind of like somebody at the gym grunting through their exercises. It's like, is it really that hard to fly up there, geese? But and I don't think that's the reason they honk. It's just, that's a childhood perception.
Yeah.
And I've kind of stuck with it. So I kind of had the honking geese, and then I actually brought a hawk out, a real live hawk out onto the stage. And I said, instead, you need to be like this hawk. And the statistics there are amazing. The hawk is such a feat of engineering. They can eat, and they can do everything else that they do in terms of bodily function. They can even drink from the humidity in the air, and they can catch prey in the air and eat them in the air, and they never have to land because of exhaustion. They just land because they just get bored with flying. And if the conditions are right, they cannot flap their wings for over an hour at a time. And so I was thinking, I see bookkeepers acting like pigeons. I see them just flapping, exhausted all the time. And there's got to be a way that they can, and then to really take the metaphor home, this is what the metaphor means, is to create revenue disproportionate to effort.
Right.
And that means automation, Eric, and it means process. But apart from the service side, it also means knowledge work. So I would tell your tax audience, tax advisory is value disproportionate to effort. You can charge more for advisory in some cases than a tax return prep if the value is there. And it could just be an hour's worth of research and an hour's worth of a meeting, and you could charge as much as an entire tax return. That's soaring.
Right. And do you find, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I think one of the big issues isn't the technology. It exists and just keeps getting better and better. It isn't the need. The need is huge. There aren't enough accountants to do returns, let alone representation. The number of attorneys that do representation, when I created the original program and licensed it to CCH 10 years ago, there were 865 lawyers in the country that listed IRS rep or tax controversy in Martindale-Hubbell, which has most lawyers.
Okay.
Today it's 162.
Geez.
Probably because, well, I
Now, is
believe
that just on the attorney side, or what about the enrolled agent side?
just on the
Of
attorney
CPAs?
side.
Okay.
And we know that the accounting profession is graying. I think what's driving it, very few people, it used to be when I went to law school, if you could go to the government, you went for 4 years, got trained, and left, went and made money in private practice. No one leaves the government anymore. And so it's not lawyers doing this. But it's really what I find is people. So the point is the need is there. The technology, everything is there. It's really a mindset. And I'll tell you, I struggle with this. When we start automating things, it's easy to knee jerk back to, well, yeah, but I can just do this manual. Let me just do this. It'll be 5 minutes. And when you do enough of that, nothing gets done. I'm sure you've all had that day where it's 6 o'clock, you're exhausted, and nothing went out the door. You're busy all day, but nothing got done. I hate that. I can't stand that. Do you find the challenge with the mindset with the bookkeepers and the accountants, your audience? I mean, how much do you find it takes convincing? I mean, first of all, if they're coming to scaling, they've already at least admitted they're interested, right? They've acknowledged. I don't want to say they've acknowledged the problem, but they've acknowledged that there's an interest in
an
what
opportunity.
you're providing.
Sure. Yeah. And what we're finding is the gulf is really big. The gulf between exploration and adoption is significant. So significant that it bothered us terribly because we're vision driven, we're purpose driven. So I make good money with the conference, as you can imagine. It's the largest accounting technology expo in the country. So I have a good living here. But my job isn't just to make money. Not even primarily make money. Money sustains the vision. And the vision is to transform business through business advisors, whether they're tax attorneys or they're attorneys or they're IT consultants, or in my case, accountants or bookkeepers. I want small business operations to be transformed. Well, the problem was I wasn't creating a bridge. I was educating these advisors in how to do the things they needed to do in a more modern way, in a more effective way to the transformation of business. But I wasn't getting enough of them acting upon what they were learning. Some very self-directed people were doing it. Most were not. And it occurred to me that in a conference environment, I can only tell people why they need to do a thing, and I can only tell them what they need to do. But I'm extremely constrained in telling them how to do it because how takes too much time in a 4-day conference, and it's too noisy. And one more thing, you probably learned this too by trying to coach people into tax representation practices. I use the word coach now instead of educate. How is a coach motion. How is not an education motion. So we created a coaching community to coach accountants and bookkeepers to actually deploy what they were learning to show. And that's made all the difference in the world. So Eric, I am seeing the needle move among our audience, but only if they couple the conference attendance with the coach program. Same as with you. You have a conference. Would that actually get the job done would be my question to you, or do you have to have your community?
No, and in fact, what's fascinating, we have people, we analyze all the time our CRM, who's in there, what have they been doing. We have people that take every webinar. They're on everything I do. I don't want to use the term groupie, but it's like that. They're on
right. Yeah.
constantly. And they've not joined. And so we surveyed a bunch of them and said, we've noticed, and we appreciate your joining us for all the conferences. Are you doing representation? What's going on with your practice? The vast majority are like, no, I think it's fascinating. I just don't know where to get started. And so I actually have started now saying, we have an entry level. You can get into our membership and just get started. And my biggest thing is you just show up and start moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go to the gym, you don't need to be an Olympic lifter. Get on the treadmill, get moving, just start, right? You'd be amazed how much you can accomplish if you show up and just do stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. But I love how you say just get on the treadmill, because people think I've got to go through a whole regimen, hire a trainer. I'm going to, have to go to the gym every day. My goal is to look all buff like the other people my age that I see that live at the gym. You'll never go. I love that comparison. But if you're thinking anybody could walk on the treadmill and watch, the news while I do it, Okay, go walk on the treadmill.
Well, listen, I had an interesting conversation with my doctor because, I'm in my 50s, I'm getting kind of soft, and I was a former power lifter and played college football. And I was like, I want to get down to, 220 pounds, whatever. And my doctor said, all right, wait a minute. Why 220? I said, well, that's where I was when, and the doctor said, all right, time out, time out. Are we trying to get healthy? We can do healthy. Are we trying to turn back the clock? No one can turn back the clock.
Mm.
And I don't know why. I mean, it's an obvious thing, but it hit me really like, wow, because I was making myself crazy about trying to get back to something that I was 32 years ago. And short of chemical help, I'm not getting back to that shape. I don't even know even what chemical help.
Isn't that the power of this extended metaphor we just did? Is not only do you not have to do everything, you just start with the simple things, but you've got to have a realistic, appropriate, and incremental goal, or you're just going to be defeated out of the gate. So I love the way you extended that metaphor out. Do you have the right goal, and do you have incremental steps to getting there?
Well, and because let's get back to the exhibit hall that people are going to experience in St. Louis. You walk in and there's inventory, there's bookkeeping, there's tax return automation, there is payables, there's receivables, there's blah, 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 blah. And you can literally be, make yourself crazy. If you're listening to this, I'm kind of like, like the crazy loopy loop with my finger. It's you make yourself, and by the way, and I love Dawn. And Dawn was just on doing EITC with me a few weeks ago. I'm going to make fun of Dawn. Dawn will be like, yep, I got this, and I got this, and I got this app, and this. And look, Dawn's been doing this for a long time, right? So she keeps
she knows how to reconcile all that in her brain.
Right.
Yeah.
When you walk in, just get started. For instance, think about, and this is what I would do, think about your pain points. If you mapped out what you do daily, where are your pain points? And let's say it is getting the bookkeeping. I would go with the focus of I'm looking at automated bookkeeping. Yeah, there are receivables, there's payables. Then let me get the major piece done. And if I can get the major piece done, okay, now now we've got that going. Now I'm actually a little bit more free. All right. And I can look at how are my payables and receivables working out. How, and you can Dawn, you build and you can add on to this thing. Don't think you have to go in and walk out with 12 pieces of new gear,
because you're not going to get it all done in a year anyway. That gets back to your what's the goal with my health over the course of a year? Set an unrealistic goal and do you feed it from the beginning. I stay on the couch, I eat potato chips.
And worse, they get overwhelmed and now they do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Just complete paralyzation. And you started with one thing. What if automation is the pain? But what if staffing is the pain? Or, exactly. Or what if I need a practice management solution to standardize my workflows? That's the pain. Or I'm a tax preparer listening in the audience. Maybe you come to Scaling New Heights, but you need to embrace the representation opportunity. So the idea, and you're really hitting on it here, Eric, the idea is not to walk into Scaling New Heights and then figure out what you need to walk away with the conference with. Walk into Scaling New Heights, knowing what you need to accomplish at the conference. That may be informed a little bit, and you may be a little fluid when you get there, but you need to just like when you go to college to become a doctor. Well, that might change when you get there, but at least you knew what you showed up to college for, and it informed how you engaged from the beginning. And unlike a college degree, this one's probably a little stickier. You come there to accomplish a staffing crisis, solve the staffing crisis, and remember, you can't do it all in a course of 12 months, which is why we have people that have been to Scaling Heights every one of their 15 years. They just tackle another giant every year, prioritize your giant. Now, if it's staffing, there are outsourced companies. We have 5 or 6 on the show floor that will do it. But back to Eric's thing, automation helps with that problem too. Mm-hmm. And then there are pricing classes. Excuse me, I'm sorry, scratching my eye there. There are pricing classes, and pricing is an interesting. If you're a tax practice, an attorney, or an accountant listening in, there's a direct connection between a staffing crisis and a pricing crisis, because a staffing crisis creates a capacity problem. A capacity problem means that you have more demand than you have supply, So you could solve that by creating more supply, obviously, but you could also create it by thinning down the demand. You could use supply demand economics to say, well, I'm just going to go up 20% of my pricing. 80% of my clients will probably stick around, pay 20% more. 20% of my clients will leave. Last time I checked the math on that, all things being equal, that's a net increase in profitability, 20% of your capacity back. That might be the very person that you were looking to hire. Now you can hire back strategically rather than reactively. So there's a pricing answer to the capacity problem. But what if you just want to say, hey, look, my goal of the next 12 months is to standardize everything, whether it's tax or whether it's a legal process of representation or bookkeeping cycles. Then take a look at the practice management solutions on the show floor and just stop there. Spend your whole time invested in that for learning, exploration, networking. Be focused. Focused.
Yeah, no, it's and just to get back to the pricing, don't be afraid to raise your prices. I actually said this on the show. In fact, my book on how to build $1 million tax rep practice is out on Amazon, but there's a whole chapter in there, and I mentioned the idea. I had a friend of mine who has they do 2,000 returns. He's got a big operation, and every year he's complaining and complaining and complaining. And I said to him, I said, "You have too many people, clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, raise your rate." He said, "What?" I said, "Raise your rate. Go up $100 across the board." He said a third or 40% of them will leave. I said, "Good." And he thought about it, and he went and he raised
the math works.
The board. Almost no one left.
That's what happens every time I say 20% going to leave, and it's almost always 0%. But I like to say it that way so that mitigates the fear.
And so what I told him, I said, "Great. So you made an extra $200,000 for the same work." And he said, "Well, now what do I do?" I said, "Go up again." I said, "How about you? My rent goes up."
If nobody left, you didn't go up enough.
Yeah. Coffee goes up. My staff, I don't know why they want raises.
Yeah.
I don't know where that started. Everything else in the world goes up.
Yeah.
Why are you, why? And by the way, and I'm not bashing the national chains, the tax prep chains. You should not be cheaper than them.
Absolutely not. It's not a race to the bottom with those folks. You just need to differentiate. And that gets me back to what you do, which is the representation stuff. Because if you're going up against Liberty and H&R Block and those folks, and they're starting to really get into some levels of sophistication with some corporate returns, focus on partnership returns, very complex multi-state issues and partnership returns, because they're not going to touch that stuff well. And then beyond that preparation, start working with Eric, if you're listening in on this, on representation, because they don't mess with that. If they do, they don't do it well. And then analysis. And when you're doing analysis, don't forget tax credits, because almost no one does tax credits well.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, tax credits is one of the rare areas you can charge a contingent fee under Circular 230. The people that did those employee retention credits and took like 10%, 15%,
killed it.
Made a killing.
Yes.
So no, but to keep that thought going, I am a big fan. Years and years ago, there was an album. It was Tony Mason Talks to Teens. He was the Michigan State coach. And we're talking like in the 60s, this album. I mean, if you've heard it, it's very dated. But he made a comment that whatever you do, you want to be the best. If you want to be a mechanic, there's no shame in this, but be the best. If you like bookkeeping, why not get into forensic accounting? Go. Dawn is a certified forensic, examiner.
Yeah.
If you like planning, go get your CFP. Add financial planning to your existing practice. You already have a relationship with them. They'd much rather work with you.
Yep.
If you like tax, consider representation. What we're suggesting, and I think actually you said this, actually you say it, I think every year, is to elevate yourself, elevate your practice, right? I mean, part of this is to automate and free yourself up so you're not working 7 days a week and grinding yourself to death. But it's also freeing you up to go do the real value-added services, advisory that Joe mentioned, representation that we do, where you can charge like a lawyer, and you can make more money doing less of the grind.
Yes. Charge for a lawyer, except not by the hour, right? Yeah, I got to throw that in.
Right.
So, but yeah, and so if you're in the bookkeeping world or you're looking to get into that, the examples of that I would say all of that's kind of tax plus, right? Because you hear about advisory, it's a big broad category. So I'm going to delineate sort of tax plus, which would be embrace representation, embrace analysis to include the credit management. And then another form of tax plus might be the certified financial planning for the individuals. Then you get business coaching, which is a whole other realm of sort of the MBA level stuff. Patrick Lindsay on the leadership management stuff. That I get it. That's big. That's scary. That's an actual occupation change. And it is for some people listening in today. It's not for everybody listening in today. But any tax preparer can tax plus up. But bookkeepers can plus it up by still being in the realm and the universe of bookkeeping. But instead of just recording the books, just like a tax preparer shouldn't just record or prepare the tax return and manage the compliance, they should interpret, analyze, and be strategic. Same with the bookkeeper. Don't just record it, analyze it, and use these QBO added tools like Fathom, Reach, QVenchi, whatever it may be. Plain Guru is a really good one, and they will serve that up to you, make you look really, really smart. Then there's an accounts receivable analytics tool that'll actually help you reduce bad debt expense called Tally Street. There's a great cash flow projection tool called cashflowtool.com. These tools will allow you to easily, and I can't stress easily enough because the software is doing the hard work, easily plus up what you're doing as a bookkeeper, add value disproportionately to effort, and that gets us back to the Soar thing. That's how you soar.
Yep. No, absolutely. And by the way, you got a great lineup of speakers. I know a handful of them. And so, again, what I'm suggesting, first of all, go to Scaling New Heights. Go check out the website. Look at who the speakers are, the schedule, where you want to, go and spend your time. But look at the exhibitors. Identify the handful that do whatever it is you want to focus on, and make sure you visit them. And just check out the exhibit hall. Don't get overwhelmed, because it can be overwhelming.
Have a plan coming in, and you won't get overwhelmed. And I want to really bring it home by saying, if you can walk out of the conference with what I called the 3 things, then you have made a tremendous investment of your capacity and money. So the 3 things are the three people you meet that you want to work with throughout the year, the 3 key pieces of information that could have a radical impact if applied in your business, the 3 inspirational thoughts that may change even your entire paradigm of the world, because it happens, right? Inspirational people change your thinking, right? And the 3 pieces of tech that you want to deploy in your practice that year. Now, can't stress enough, all that must be, the 3 things must be things you want to do intentionally in the coming 12 months between conferences. Because if not, you're going to end up with, 50 things. So it's 3 things. Yep. In those categories.
Right. And so, Joe, I will put a link to the conference below, but where can they go and check out the conference?
Yeah, so it's really easy. The name of the conference is called Scaling New Heights, and it's scalingnewheights.com.
And I will put a link down below. And hopefully we will see all of you there. Hopefully we come by in the exhibit hall and say hello. Tax Rep Network is going to be there.
Yeah, you have a booth. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It really is a terrific conference. St. Louis, I've got friends in St. Louis, so there's a great reason to be there. But no, the conference is fantastic. And I think you've laid it out very carefully. Go in with a plan, be focused. That way you don't get overwhelmed, and you'll come away with really good stuff that you can use in your practice and frankly, change your practice. Because I think what's happening is a lot of people, COVID did this, are beginning to realize what is important and what is not. And the grinding away, you don't need to work till midnight 7 days a week in tax season. I'm sorry, I don't know where this came from.
I call that flapping.
Right.
Back to flapping, yeah.
Yeah. The answer is charge more, drive out the people. So my advice, so anyway, I mentioned my book. My advice in my book, Joe, was before tax season started, first of all, print your receivables. You shouldn't have receivables if you're doing returns, but let's assume you got too busy, you have some receivables. Collect those as quickly as you can. Mm-hmm. Rank all your clients A to F. The D's and the F's, the ones who suck your will to live, that you dread dealing with, they get a letter saying, we are simply too busy. We are unable to properly manage your account. You have all of your originals. You should have all your originals. Please seek another tax preparer who can spend the time to really help you. Thank you for your service. We wish you the best of luck.
Your portal will stay live for 15 days. Go get your stuff if you need it. Yeah.
Basically,
Done.
yeah, goodbye.
Yeah.
Right? Your C clients, you're going to raise $100. Your B and your A's, it's up to you. But the point is, make more money working with the people you want. There's no reason you can't have busy season and go home for dinner at 6:00. And
thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it was, and you sort of get caught up in it. And for my generation, it was a thing. Like when I went to a big law firm right out of law school, it was like this source of pride. People work till 10 p.m. The whole Ally McBeal, which was, I'm showing my age, that TV show was around this young group of lawyers, but it showed this like almost dystopian way of living, that they live to go out to the bar at 11 p.m. and they're grinding away. And there was a source of pride in basically having no life and being miserable. I don't know where this came from, but it's got to stop. Is the year you stop. All right. So go check out Scaling New Heights, scalingnewheights.com. I'll put a link below. Joe, thank you. I want to get you on again right before the conference, but certainly
I would love to come back anytime. And of course, the invitation's bi-directional. We'd love to have you sometime on the Woodard Report podcast with me and Heather Satterley too. So
I would love that.
And I'm so excited that you're going to be doing training. I mean, a whole track of training at Scaling New Heights. It's going to be great.
5 programs. I don't want to say unfortunately, I have a wedding in Boston Sunday evening. I fly in Monday. I do penalty abatement. We're doing criminal tax. By the way, Chief Lee has agreed. So we have Chief Jim Lee from IRS Criminal Investigation will be at Scaling with me, doing an update. And then we're doing collection, I think offers and compromise, and I don't remember the other one off the cuff, but we have 5 programs. It's a whole track on representation.
That's great. And then as an extension of that tax track, we're also doing tax planning
Dominique.
with Dominique, who is the head of the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. And both of those categories, you're offering EA credits to anybody who attends. And we appreciate you doing that because we're not accredited to do that. So thank you.
Yep, no problem. We got that. I'm working with Heather on that. We'll make sure we get everything approved. And
we do CPE, just if you have CPAs listening in, but we don't do EA.
Yeah. Well, we are. It's just Green and Scars is doing it.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, no, there's credit. So, listen, thank you. Thank all of you for listening, and check out the conference. And if you do go, please stop by and say hello. And maybe not grab Joe. He'll be a little busy, I find.
It's okay. I love to say hi in the hallways, but definitely you can have a long, meaningful conversation with Eric. So
yeah, exactly. All right. Now, listen, thank you all, and everyone. Listen, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week on the podcast.